That's so good. All right. Welcome, everybody. We're officially starting. Thanks, Jasmine, for sharing. Prague was amazing if you ever get a chance to go, but we're going. Okay, so I'm going to start out by saying, this is Kristen Pardue, by the way, for those of you that don't know me. I want to start out by saying that if it's even at all possible to get to an in-person training or do that, this is the next best thing is online. We're trying to condense 4 days worth of training into 4 weeks. And so all that to say is this isn't going to do justice what in person would do. So if you can do both, do both. If you can't do both, then this is the next best thing, and that's okay. You may just have to watch these things more than one time to get it in your head, if this is your only option is online. So be okay with watching it more than one time. So I'm going to pass it off to, I think, Brittany Davidson speaking first. And so we're going to be talking to you all about sampling and how to sample people to really get them that positive oil experience. So Brittany, go ahead. She may be muted. You have to unmute yourself. Brittany?
Kristen, can I say something?
So now I have a screaming baby.
Oh.
Sorry, Julian, you can go.
We're ready for you.
Okay, cool. Just gonna pull it up on Google Drive really quick. Okay, can y'all see that? The life cycle doTERRA? So we're good to go. Oh, Juliana, did you want to say something?
I was going to say that Kristen keeps breaking up.
Okay, good to know. Let me know, just message me if I break up. Sorry, multiple devices going on in here. So not so much echoing. So I'm super excited to share with y'all all about the life cycle of doTERRA according to Elise Chedevy. So like Jasmine was saying, the Prague training was super amazing. Really what I came out of it, I thought I was actually introduced to the system about 2 years ago, and it really seemed like overwhelming. So I want you all to kind of put that hat off for tonight and just kind of come into it with an open mind. This is actually meant to simplify everything for you. And so if you start feeling overwhelmed or if you start feeling challenged, don't worry. It is different to think of things this way, but at the same time, it's amazingly refreshing. If we can look at our business this way with a lot more simplicity and a lot more readily, available to sample and to talk to people this way, it's going to make it a lot easier, and then it's going to make it a lot more duplicable. One of the things we learned about in this process was a lot of times we can be the anomaly of doTERRA, and anomalies don't duplicate well. And so while you may have gotten to diamond, blue diamond, platinum, gold, silver, a lot of times it's really hard to teach that to our teams, right? Do you all feel that way? So I know I definitely felt this way. And especially like when we get a new builder on, it's kind of scary, right? And so after going to this training, I just felt super relieved that, sorry guys, do y'all mind not texting? I'm on my device right now, so it keeps on dinging. But it's hard for us to kind of start from scratch, right? So when people don't understand the life cycle of this business, they take what they think are shortcuts, which turn out to be the longest path ever, at least Chedevy. And this is what I'm going to charge y'all with tonight. I am definitely like the quintessential shortcut taker. I love to make everything kind of convenient for myself so it's easy, so I don't have to stretch myself or get outside my comfort zone. And so I'm going to challenge y'all. When I did this training 2 years ago, and I just kind of learned it from a friend of a friend's slides, I didn't actually go to the training. It was easy to kind of take the shortcuts out, maybe do one class a month, maybe Sorry, it's hard to hear you. Okay, I'll speak louder. Maybe it's easier to just sample your friends or people you meet. Really do what she says in this training and do it for 3 months, do it for a whole year and see how your business changes. It's good to get out of your comfort zone. It's good to change things up, especially when things aren't working. And one of the things that I found really interesting was we actually had the Emily Wright in the room, and she actually shared with us that there is kind of like a shift that's happened with doTERRA over the past 3 years. And we are really heavily relying on social media, and we really need to get back to what the heart of doTERRA is. And it's changing people's lives, and it's changing their lives, not through a screen. It's changing people's lives through the drop of essential oil. And that's what we were doing 5-10 years ago. And we really need to get back to those basics, because that's what's duplicable. People are changed by you caring. People are changed by you putting a drop of oil in someone's hands and really walking them through the process in a systematic way. So this is the typical life cycle of maybe what you feel like you've been through. And this is why it can be really misleading. So I'd love to ask if anybody would like to comment on this. But when you get a new builder right now, how do you typically feel when you get a new builder on board? Do you feel excited? Do you feel kind of disheartened? Do you feel guilty? Anybody want to comment? If they want to mute themselves really quick. How do you feel if you grab a new builder on board? Kim Gonza, you said, hope I get that right. Anybody else comment?
I'll comment.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel super excited, but then I also sort of feel overwhelmed because I feel like I have to teach them all this information and it's about to get and it's a long road to launching a builder. So I feel, equally excited and equally like, wow, this is going to be a lot of work.
And what's your name?
Eliza.
Sorry, say that again.
Eliza, did you hear me?
Oh, Eliza.
Hey.
I know you. Okay. Sorry, it wasn't telling me he was talking. That's awesome. I'm glad to know that even you feel that way. So yeah, excited, but no system or some of the things I see coming through. It's a long road again, just like Eliza said. And yeah, it can be really daunting. And I feel like there's been kind of like a lack of, there's tons of systems out there, and there's a lack of just knowing what to do. I know one of the things I would do would just be to say, book a class for a week from now, read this book, and we're going to go from there. And that's not really fun, right? And we feel kind of guilty, because I know I felt this way as the rank I am, is I know how I got here, and I don't know if that's how I want other people to get here. It's kind of like I got myself here with duct tape. And so it'd be a lot more competent of us to actually be able to show somebody a roadmap, right? And so this is the typical life cycle. We invite a lot of people, mostly through social media. So we're not actually getting a sample into their hands. A lot of times, I'm sure you probably have all gotten messaged by somebody, or even you've sent this message yourself. I know I have. I can say I'm guilty of this, where you're like, hey, I've found this new thing called essential oils. Do you want to come to my class? And that person on the other side of the screen is thinking, I haven't talked to you in 5 years. I have no idea what essential oils are. No, thank you. And then they don't respond, right? And so you just hope that these people come to the event and they buy. And then you hope that they reorder, and then you hope that they want to join you in the business. This is a lot of hoping, right? It's not actually relying on anything, any certain system. So I'm sure you can all relate to this. So in this typical example, so Elise is a triple diamond, amazing, top rank of the company. Her and Patrick actually put together like $120,000 to do this study. So the proof is in the pudding. You don't have to go run out your own study. This system works, so you don't have to worry about it not working or say in 3 months it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, you're probably not following it exactly. So they studied that in this typical example, if you invite 50 people, 8 people actually show up, 3 people enroll with 200 PV on average. So that's about 600 OB. And then after a wellness consult membership overview, one gets on 100 PV LRB. So less than 1, so 0.3 to 0.5 is interested in business. So you only get 100 PV from this class, carries over to the next month. So when you typically have a new builder teaching a class, or if you've been teaching a new class and, you know, your husband takes the kids and he comes back and he's like, hey, how'd it go? Like, the last thing you want is just 100 PV to carry over month for month, right? That's not anything to build a business off of. And this is why we often feel guilty to get somebody else on board, is because we don't want somebody to have to teach 16 classes to elite. That is essentially what this person would have to do. And that takes a lot of effort. And we don't have, you know, 50 people on 50 people on 50 people to do this. So this is ineffective. It's like banging your head against the wall over and over again. And people will run through their market really quickly. We're going to talk about ranking lists later and how to make your list of 100 names, which is not just making a list of 100 names, it's actually ranking them, which is brilliant, and I never did before. So we don't want to just go after the same people over and over, and we don't want people to burn through their list without properly getting them sampled. So Elise says, I don't like guessing on things. I like actual documented patterns. And when I find them, I build my duplication model around them. So her system is all on duplication. So she does a lot of things amazingly because has run so many different companies that she told us about. She even joked about how they would literally open or start a new company every single week, or they would limit themselves. So she's brilliant as far as starting new companies, getting people to join her and whatever her endeavors are. But she knows she's an anomaly. Not everyone is Elise Sedebi. So this is built off of what caters to everyone and how everyone can build a business. So this is the effective way to sample. So it's a positive experience for everyone. So this involves some prep. It involves upfront sampling. It's not just you sitting behind a computer or a phone or your Facebook Messenger and messaging people. It's actually getting out there and making sure people are prepped and with a good experience, which is what Diana is going to share with us, which I'm so excited about. So you never invite someone to a class until they have had a positive oil experience. Next week, I believe, we'll be talking about classes, and the class is just, it's magic. But it is built all around people having good experiences, so that builds really good excitement and testimonials in those classes. So you want people to be sampled because you want them to be ready to buy at the class, but you also want them to feed off of each other too. And then you always be using the fundamental philosophy that sorry, the chat screen came up, that you are doing someone a favor. So that is the beauty in this. I'll tell y'all a quick story, just because that's what this is about, right? As soon as I got done with Elise's training, she talked a lot about praying about your business too, which I thought was amazing. She just is a really amazing, beautiful, dynamic person. And before I got to this training, I thought she was very systematic and she must work all the time, but she really is brilliant in the fact that she's duplicable, and she really knows the joy and beauty of time freedom and how to spend that time in a beautiful way. But anyways, she was talking all about doing someone favors. And so I was sitting on the plane and I was literally praying about who was going to sit next to me. And on the way back from Prague, this 30-year-old, adorable, influential doctor sat next to me. And we were talking, and she talks all about, diverting attention, going back to the person that you're actually talking to. So she would keep trying to change the conversation to me, and I would talk about how she was a marathon runner and just go back to whatever she had previously talked about. Towards the end of the flight, though, we had talked about essential oils and stuff, and I kept on bringing the conversation back to her. We talked for about the majority of the 8 hours of this flight. And towards the end, she kept on coughing, and, she had said that she basically wishes. She was just on her honeymoon. Her husband had to go fly to Kuwait after this, and so she was flying back alone. And she said that she was like, I wish I could just walk into a pharmacy somewhere and just get a prescription. And she was like, but that's like illegal. And so I kind of spun it around, and I was like, what if, you didn't have to walk into a pharmacy and I could just give you something that would get rid of that cold? And she literally like fell out of her chair. She was like, that is so nice of you. This is so sweet of you. I ended up giving her an On Guard sample. Talk to her like you're going to hear about in the scripts, how you talk to a doctor, which was really amazing. And it's amazing because you can pull all this out of your back pocket. We ended up following each other on Instagram. She's very engaged with On Guard now. She wants to incorporate it because she's been looking for something natural to incorporate into her practice. So it was just really amazing that something so simple, you're going to learn a lot. A lot in this training is what I'm trying to get to. But it's amazing what you'll be able to pull out of your back pocket just based off the scripts Elise gives you and just the fundamental philosophy that you're doing somebody a favor. And whether it's helping somebody get over a cold or helping somebody's baby with an ear infection, we need to get away from feeling like we are selling to people and that we are, pouncing on people or poaching people. What we do and what you do every single day is you are a resource and a tool to give natural medicine to people. And there's plenty of people out there looking for it. So just remember that you're doing someone a favor. And I feel like just that philosophy helped change my mind when I was sitting next to her on the plane. So this is an effective cycle. So if you do it like Elise says, you will earn about 1,400 to 1,600 OB off of classes. Raise of hands, who would like to earn 1,400 to 1,600 instead of 300? I would. So you're going to prep 10, you're going to invite 10, and 8 are going to show up. This is all going to be explained in detail over the next 4 weeks. So this is just to show you the exact numbers. Elise loves numbers, which I like to. So 7 to 8 enroll with 200 PV on average. It's 1,400 to 1,600 OB. You do wellness consults and membership overview. So 7 on average. These are all statistics that she pulled. She's not just pulling numbers out of thin air. 7 get on LRP. So that's a total of 700 OB. And then from that, because you're going to learn how to get people to host from classes, during that wellness consult, 3 to 4 will want to do the business. So that's about 40%. So you get 1,400 OB from this class. 700 OB carries over because that's statistically what carries over from LRP. And then 3.5 people start sharing. So it's 7 times more effective, and you only need 2 to 3 classes to elite. Who's excited about this? Anybody think this is pretty mind-blowing? Feel free to mute yourself. Kristen says it is so much more effective. I agree, Kristen. Anyone else on here? Come on, I know Roxanne, Nikki, Juliana. I just taught my front line, and I remember on Wednesday they were like cheering with excitement because they were just like their minds were blown.
I'll speak. You want to try something before you buy it, so that's how are you going to get people to a class if they don't have a good experience? I mean, it makes sense. You got to work hard to get those people at the classes, but you're going to have better results. So. Sounds good to me. I'm changing my ways.
Exactly. And especially something like essential oils. I feel like, especially this time in the market, either people have an idea of what they are because of poor marketing on television or in Costco, and then they get something like this in their hands that actually smells like lavender and smells completely different. It's a good way to get them interested. I know it worked with my neighbor. I sampled her, and she had this whole stigma. She's 70, but not being able to smell scents. And it took, sampling to finally get her after she came to a class 2 years ago, but she hadn't been sampled before. And now she uses frankincense on her skin cancer scar, and she's using Tries every day. But at the beginning, she didn't think she could smell scents, but because she was sampled correctly, she knew that it wasn't going to irritate her like the other stuff. So I agree with you. So life cycle of favors. It's all a series of favors. So you're going to sample. You're going to invite to a class. You're going to have a surprise at the end of a class. You're going to offer a wellness consult membership overview, and you're not going to offer it like, if you want to come to wellness consult, please join me. You want to make it sound like it is one of the best things that you offer. It's all part of your membership, just like the continued education we're going to talk about, involving them in continued education, inviting to a business training, offering 3-way calls, mentoring them in their business. These are the backbone of your business, not social media, not putting stickers on your oil caps, not organizing your oils at home. I love how Elise said this at Diamond Retreat, but this is the bread and butter of your business. You don't sit around and do other things. This is what fills up your hours. If you have 7 hours in a week, you do these things. You don't do anything else. So we're going to share with y'all a success schedule too later on in these calls. But it's amazing how literally if you only have 1 hour a week in this business, you teach a class. You don't look at your back office. You don't, what is CE? The CE is continued education. So that's like, if you have 2 hours, you do a class and you do 1 hour continued education. If you're continuously plugging people back into your business, they're going to be on LRP. So continued education. Oh, I love what you said, Cheryl. You're screaming on the inside. Y'all, I'll tell you, I started doing a class every week. I ran with this after Diamond Retreat in July when she talked about it, even before I knew I could win a trip to Prague. Just because I wanted something, and I have a good social media business with doTERRA. I enroll on average 2 to 3, but it's not like what doTERRA is about. I want a community. I want something that people, and social media is a total anomaly. You cannot build a business off of social media. So what I started doing was doing a class a week and continuing education. It's a lot. I have 2 babies, 2.5, 8-month-old. I have 4 rescue dogs at home. Like, I know, trust me, people, cleaning a house every single week and making sure you can get people over. But y'all, I have brought over 3,000 more OB and LRPs because of continued education. So do it. Do all of this. If you only have 2 hours a week, do your class and your continued education, and then find more hours in the week. But anyways, this is all the series of favors: sampling, inviting to a class, offering, not just offering, but doing a wellness consult, inviting them to continue education, holding them every single week so they have something to plug themselves into, and then plugging themselves into the business training afterwards. So this prevents the icky feeling of selling something. It takes it back to it being about them. This feels good for everyone. Because how many people do you know that, you see a cute dress on a kid and you're like, oh, I got this from such and such store. Or somebody, wants to share a new gluten-free bakery with you. It's easy to share those things, right? And that's what we just need to get back to, is that this is a whole process of doing favors. It's not about being an icky salesman. It's about sharing the good natural wellness with everyone. So a little recap. Effective life cycles require prep. So y'all get on Oil Life or wherever you want to get on and buy some sample vials and a bunch of stickers and get your, top 10 oils ready to sample. But when done correctly, we can build elites in 2 to 3 classes. Who would like to build an elite in 2 to 3 classes? That's amazing, right? This creates excitement and momentum for our builder and builds their confidence. When we're doing someone a favor, we're not selling anything. This mindset of doing favors permeates the entire process from sampling a new user to training and loading a rising builder. Because I know when I got introduced to oils and then when I started doing the business, I never felt like, Kristen or anyone was, selling me something. I felt like they were helping me, along the way. They were doing me favors to up-level my health, to up-level my financial situation. And so you need to really think about that when you're sharing not only the oils, but the business, because so much of this is going to be sharing the business. One of the facts that I love that Elise shared was, I think she is enrolled, Jasmine, Amy, Allison, correct me if I'm wrong, but she enrolled like a little over 150 people during her whole career, and they're like all builders because she sells the business.
She says
with
she's
the
never
oils.
enrolled. She's never enrolled a product user. Everybody does the business that she's enrolled because she convinces them to.
Yeah, she's doing them all a favor. She's making them financially free. So I'm going to flip it to the next module really quick. And I'm going to share a few slides, and then Diana is going to teach y'all. So welcome to module 2. So I'm sure you are so excited now to actually start doing things, right? So you should have listened to the first few calls that we assigned you. Like we said before, it's easy to get on these calls, but you really need to listen to Elise actually teach you these calls. She has a confidence and mastermind dynamic that will whip anybody's butt into shape. So I would highly suggest that you keep on listening to her calls before you get on these calls, because we're just kind of recapping everything, but she's going to give you the true success potion. Sorry, it's late. I can't think of what I was going to say. So sampling and inviting. So why is sampling so important? It's the key ingredient to a successful business. It forms the foundation of a strong or weak team. Duplication of this method is essential for success, and correctly done, 80% effective. Company-wide average is 20% right now. So literally what you're doing right now is 20% of what you could actually be receiving. And y'all, that was an eye-opener enough for me to be like, I will stop whatever I'm doing right now, and I will do it exactly the way you say to do it, Elise. Because if I can get 80% return on the exact same time I'm spending right now, I don't have to spend as much time on social media. I don't have to spend so much time, you know, trying to poach people and hunt people down to buy oils. I can actually, you know, go from a list of people I have, rank them a certain way, and go from those people first. It's amazing. Yeah, and like Kristen said, always carry samples with you. Because that's really only how people are going to get a good experience from them, right? This is my favorite quote ever from Elise. So this business does not grow organically. I don't know how many people I've gotten on board and they say that are probably on this call right now that say, I'm just going to let it grow organically. I probably was one of those. It grows by mastering simple skill sets over and over and duplicating them over and over and over again. So your business is not going to grow organically. If it did grow organically, you're an anomaly and your team will not learn from you. So the whole point of duplication is that we want to be able to do something easily and then be able to teach everyone beneath us easily. Because if you are like me and you're sitting at the rank you are, and you're like, wow, it's really great that I'm here, but I have no idea how to teach anybody else how to get here, or that path looked really scary and strange, then this is how you need to do things. So we're going to show you really simply, and it's going to be really fun because you're actually teaching people and interacting with people on a daily basis instead of scratching your head and being frustrated. So the number of touches. So you probably have all heard this numerous times. The number of touches has gone up a lot. Touch equals exposure. So the whole point of basically you sampling is that you are going to methodically be the person that keeps on quote unquote touching them. Touching just means exposing them. So that way you're the one that keeps on circling back to them, telling them about essential oil, so that when finally they decide to have, you know, a good experience with oils, and then they come to a class, that you're going to be the one that enrolls them. That way it's not just you dropping off a sample with them, not leaving a business card, never hearing from them again, or just talking with them on a plane and never, you know, talking to them again. It's so that we always stay in that person's network. So nowadays we need 8 to 16 touches. That's a lot, right? If you think about the last product you bought, or the last thing you bought for maybe your child or your husband, it probably took you about 8 to 16 different times, either hearing about it from a friend or a family member, of seeing it on TV or on the internet or on social media, before you actually pulled the trigger. So the sampling process is designed for maximum number of touches before class or one-on-one. This means that they are getting so comfortable with these oils that they know that they work, so that by the time you get them sitting across from you, either in a class or a one-on-one, that they've already made their decision that these are effective. Now you're just going to convince them that they're effective in every other aspect of their life, like replacing their medicine cabinet. We only invite to classes on one-on-ones those who have had a great experience with the oils. This is a part that you cannot cheat on. Do not invite people that have not had experiences with oils. And better yet, like Elise said, definitely don't invite people that you gave a sample to the day before that still haven't said they had a good experience with essential oils. So what not to do? You don't want to give more than one sample at a time. You do not want to give an expensive sample, and you do not want to sample a complex issue or diagnosis. Angel, I see you're on here right now, so I'm going to pick on you for a second. Angel was texting me Friday, and she was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to sample this guy that has Crohn's disease, and I'm going to give him 8 different peppermint soft gels, and I'm going to give him a 10 milliliter roll-on. And God bless her. I love you, Angel, and I love your heart. But this is one of the things of what not to do, right? Because we don't want to give them so many things that they don't know what's working. And we also don't want to, it's not duplicable, because we can't tell all of our new people to give everybody everything. I love you, Angel. Thank you for giving me a kissy face after saying that. But so we just need to get back to the basics. So I was talking to her about this afterwards. And I've talked to numerous people about this, but so say, for example, somebody has Crohn's disease. What else do you think, like she said, he had 2 other really complex issues, which I appreciate. And, you know, we want to help everybody get to where they want to get to. But some other things that are probably happening, you can ask them, well, do you have low energy because of this? Do you have heartburn? Do you get headaches? You know, so that way you're kind of going back to really simple wins. We want something that's going to just show them that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We don't want to show them like this is how you get to the end of the tunnel yet. We want to show them hope. We want to show them that this is the way that they are going to address all their other issues, but, you know, get them there in a really simple way that they can understand. Anybody want to give me an example of a really good way to sample somebody over a really simple issue? You'll win something if you talk. So just unmute yourself.
I'll say something.
Yeah, what's your name?
Logan.
Sorry, say that again.
Logan.
Logan. Hi, Logan.
Hi. So I have a friend that I've been wanting to enroll, and she has back problems, back pain. And I started to load up a sample packet for her with everything I could ever think of for back pain. And there were probably, 8 things in it. And I hadn't heard this quite yet, but I had been listening to Elisa's stuff. So I, really in a regrettable fashion, took out everything except the deep blue rub. And I went over and I gave it to her. And then I told her, I couldn't stop from telling her that I had other things that could help if that didn't, of course. But that was a very simple thing. And we're in communication now. I sampled her lemongrass to add on to the deep blue rub. And that's where we're at right now. And she wants to talk to me this week for some other things.
That's amazing. Good job. Good job not oversharing. And did she like the deep blue rub? Did you say that?
Yeah, it works. It works really, really well. And then,
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I want to overshare all the time. I'm an overshare of all things.
I gave.
That's awesome. Anybody else want to share a simple sampling story? I see a lot of you chatting. Peppermint for headache, see allergies. One of the things I really like that somebody shared, Austin shared with us at Elisa's training, was a really simple win for people with allergies is just giving them a sample of peppermint and telling them to put peppermint to the roof of their mouth. And I had been dealing with allergies while I was in Prague, and it was amazing, just the relief. You're just there to give them a relief, to show them like, this is the tip of the iceberg, you know. There's a whole nother world that you'll experience. So you don't have to worry about sampling them tries and lemon lavender peppermint and melaleuca and everything else. Anybody
I
else
was
want
gonna,
to?
say something.
Yeah.
With like skin issues, start with the basics, melaleuca if it's not enough, you know, maybe helichrysum, or then just, you know, go up the line of starting the cheapest to Roman
I have
camel
Yeah.
or something.
That's
Sorry.
awesome.
That's all.
I have a one to share as well.
Yeah. What's your name? Sorry.
Melissa.
Melissa.
Yes. And I was on the train recently with a good friend, and she was talking to me about how just overwhelmed and stressed she was, and how she just had a terrible headache, and she was just really at her wit's end. So I said, don't worry, I've got you covered. And I pulled out my past tense and I had her roll it on. And then I got out my Serenity and Balance combo and rolled it on. And after about 5 minutes, she was, you know, definitely, she was like, I can't believe I was about to get my Advil and I don't have to reach for my Advil anymore. That past tense really helped. So, and she is a current customer that I'm trying to get her on LRP. So that was just a couple of weeks ago. So I'm hoping to get that to be an LRP future.
That's so awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, we're going to show y'all in the next few weeks a really cool trick to get people on LRP, and it's those continuing education classes. It's the best way to get, you know, people continually interested is to continually show up, you know, in their minds and in their calendars. So thank y'all so much for sharing. That was awesome. I saw that my mom, Roxanne, just informed me that it maxed out on the Zoom. So I think there's over 100 people, but Kristen's recording this. So if your team can't get on, do not fret. But I'm so excited about y'all's attendance. Good job, guys. I'm going to share one more slide and then I'm going to turn it over to Diana. So step one is the call. Do not reach out via Facebook. Do not do it. We want to, Diana's going to talk about writing your list of 100 and ranking them in such a beautiful way. But do not reach out to these people via Facebook. It's so important to actually create a relationship. This is a relationship business. And we don't even want to text them. We don't want to email them. Elise created her whole business, not on social media, not on email. So do it for the next year, just off of what she said. And I think you'll see your business grow in a beautiful way. The people that first showed up when I started doing Elise's method back in August, because I got back at the end of July from Diamond Retreat, the people that showed up to my classes were the people that I called. Was it nerve-wracking? Yes. But, and those people all got on LRP and they weren't on LRP. And I reached such a new, beautiful, I usually appeal to just moms. And I started appealing to people that were in different age brackets that, you know, could come to my 6 o'clock classes. So try to throw away any limitations. Just pick up the phone and call people. It's different. People like it because nobody does that anymore. You also want to do them a favor. So Diana's going to also talk more about this, but you want to appeal to one of their needs, and Laura will answer questions once this call is over. You also want to make it personal. I thought of you first. So you're going to hear all these different scripts and you're going to have all these different scripts. I highly recommend you put these scripts into the notes section of your phone. I absolutely love being able to pull up the notes section of my phone and be like, okay, this is what I should say. My mom was even asking me that. She's like, how did you say that thing to the doctor like that? And I was like, honestly, it was in the notes section of my phone. And when she went to the bathroom, I just looked at it for a second. And I was like, oh yeah, I know where to go from here. And then before you know it, it just comes out of your mouth like it's knowledge. So make it urgent. These are flying out of my hands. You know, I only have a few left. you're going to hear all sorts of different scripts. But here I'm going to turn it over to Diana. So I'm going to mute myself. And Diana is going to share with you all the beautiful ways that you can sample.
Okay,
And I'll
hi.
keep on scrolling for you, Diana. So
My name is Diana Smith, and I'm going to start out with step 2, setting expectations. And so these are some of the things that you need to try to memorize, and you can change them up a bit to who you're actually talking to, but the best you can. Memorize them, get them in your head so that when you're at that point, then you're not like struggling for words to say. But set expectations. I'm going to drop this off to you, but I want to first mention some similarities of natural medicine and traditional medications. You know how when you go to the doctor and you try a medication, you tell them not every medicine works for every person in the same way. Essential oils are similar in that sense. Our bodies are different and our chemistry is different. So when you're, say you're giving them Serenity for sleep, you don't want to say, hey, this is going to work. This works great for everybody. And definitely have a great, reaction to this. Because if you do that, then if the person tries it that night and it doesn't work, then they think all essential oils don't work. So you want to tell them, everybody's bodies are different and our chemistry is different. So sometimes oils work with different bodies differently. What I'm going to do is drop off the most common oil for your ailment, and we will see how it works for you. The most common one is usually the least expensive one, but we may need to tweak it to find exactly what your body needs. If you're as patient with natural medicine as you are with prescription drugs, we will find something that is cheaper, safer, more effective, and that is specifically works for you. Deal? So again, you want to let them know all of that ahead of time, so that they're not expecting a miracle with that first oil that they get. And it might be a miracle one. It might work for them. That first oil might work, but it might not. Like the woman was talking earlier with the person with back pain. I myself started with Deep Blue and it helped, but it didn't take away my back pain. I needed more. So when you check back in with them, then you ask them how it went, whether it worked or not, and then you can swap out. If it doesn't work for them, offer to swap out the original sample and makes them value the original sample more. And the reason we preempt here is no matter what happens, we don't know. If they don't, we have to tweak something later on. If they don't respond to lavender like we hope, if they're not going to feel that there is something wrong with them. Also, it lets them know that there is a process, that we are working together, we're on the same team, and we're going to figure this out. But we may not hit it out of the park on the first bat. Now it's important also that you have given them that you have to give them another oil sample, that you swap out the new one for the one that you had previously given them. What that's going to do is make them value both oils more when you're swapping it out versus just dropping off a new one. And then step 3, we're going to deliver. And you always want to do this in person if at all possible. There are times when the person you're trying to sample lives far away, so then of course you're going to mail them. But if at all possible, you want to drop off in person one sample and one guide, and you demonstrate how to use both. And then you tell them that you will follow up with them in 2 days. If they are far away, then that's the only time that you will give them more than one sample at a time. Because it's harder to mail back and forth, several samples. So you might want to mail 2 or 3 samples if they live far away. So we're going to drop off in person. And now if we go to church together or we work together, if our children play sports together, we can bring the sample to that event. That's fine. You may want to do it. You just want to do it in person. It's best for you to do it at their home, so you're in their setting, but you can do it in person in other events. You also don't want to put it in someone's mailbox and then let them know that you dropped it off. You want to drop it off in person so you can demonstrate how to use it, how to use the sample, and how to use the guide. Be really specific in showing them how to use both. Doesn't matter what guide you use. It can be the Live Naturally, it can be the A to Z, Healthy Can Be Simple, any of them, as long as you give them one. So we're going to demonstrate how to use both, and then we're going to let them know that we're going to follow up with them by phone in 2 days. So you give them 2 days to use that oil. So we're saying something like, hey, I'm going to follow up with you in 2 days and see how you've experienced it. If you have a good experience, great. If you don't have a good experience, no problem. We're going to find something that works for you. Again, you're setting the expectation that no matter what happens, it's okay. There's no way to fail in this process. You don't have to feel like a failure. You don't have to feel like a failure if it's not quite working on the first go round. So no matter what, it's okay. That's why you tell them, everybody's chemistry is different. So if this oil doesn't work, and I have another oil we can try. And so then we go on to the first follow-up call. So, got it? Okay. So call at 2 days, not sooner and not later. So you give them 2 days to try it. And you don't ask, how was it? Ask, have you had the opportunity to try the oil yet? 50% of them will not have tried it yet. This is good for more touches. So the more times you're talking to them, when you first talk to them, each time is considered a touch. It doesn't have to be an actual new oil. It's just each time you speak about the essential oils is a touch. So you give them, it's important that we don't call sooner and that we don't call later. So again, Elise she has put hundreds of thousands of dollars in market research on all of this to find out exactly when is the best time for each of these things. So you might want to go, oh, I don't have time, so I want to do it in 1 day. No, do it exactly how she has it. She has proven experience that this is the best way to do it. 2 days is a sweet spot for them. Now, you're not going to say, how was a sample or how was it? Don't ever say that. The reason is 50% of the people will never have tried it. If they haven't tried it and you're like, hey, how was it? Then you might force them into a lie because they don't want to let you down. So the question that we ask instead is, have you had the opportunity to try the oils yet? Got it? Have you had the opportunity to try the oils? Now, half the time their answer is going to be no. 50% of the people will not have tried it yet. And this is awesome, right? Because that means we get more touches with them. Whenever this happens to Elise and someone's like, oh no, I haven't gotten to use it yet. Instead, she's like, yes, okay, good. I'm so excited. I get more touches with this person. So don't get upset if they haven't tried it, because then we're just gonna retell them how to use it and then contact them again. So you can go to the next slide. So if they haven't used it yet, respond with excitement. This is what we're going to do. Give them instructions again on how to use the oil. Call again in the morning. So this time, you don't have to wait 2 more days. You can call the very next day. Keep getting text messages.
That would be from me.
Is it to me?
No, go ahead. Keep talking.
Okay. If you haven't, okay, so this is what we're going to do. Again, this is on the if they haven't used it, and you go over how to use the oil again, the next time you can call them the next morning. You do not have to wait 2 more days. This is the only time you don't have to wait the 2 days. A call again in the morning, and that's your second follow-up. And then if they haven't used it in the next morning, have them use it with you on the phone. So the second time, if they haven't used it, right then you say, okay, well, let's get that Melaleuca out for your acne and put it on your finger and put it right on that spot where you need it, or put it right on your mouth sore so that they know exactly, we'll do it right then with you on the phone. We're reinstating our instructions. We're letting them know what we're going to call them again in the morning. And because it's a follow-up call, we don't have to wait that second day. We can go ahead and call them the next morning. Then if they still haven't used it in the following morning, you're going to have them use it on the phone with you. Now, most people will have used it at this point, but if they haven't, you're going to say, hey, did you have the opportunity to use it? How was it? If they haven't used it, you're going to say, you know what? No worries. Go get it right now. I'm going to show you how to use it now. I'm going to walk you through it. We're going to go grab that oil, and then you're going to walk them through how to apply it. And you're going to say something like, I know this pain has been an issue in your life, and I really want you to overcome it. So I'm going to follow up with you tomorrow and see how it was going. So again, another touch. So then the final follow-up call, I don't think it all went all the way up. Okay, so this is the third and final follow-up call. Now, what if you've had a bad experience when you call them back? They say they followed the instruction and for whatever reason, nothing happened, or they didn't like what happened. You say something like, you know what? I totally get it. Always stay positive. There are a few things that essential oils haven't worked on for me, but there's a ton of stuff that they have. So let me go over what happened. What you're saying is you use Deep Blue, you put it on your fingers, you rubbed it into your back, and you didn't experience any change. They say, yep, that's exactly what happened. Then you say, okay, this is what we're going to do. I know you're wanting to overcome this back problem, and I want to help you do it. If you'll be patient with essential oils, we're going to be successful in finding something that is safer, cheaper, and more effective. We're going to do this. What we're going to do is I'm going to bring you over wintergreen or aroma touch because I really want you to experience some relief. You know, they could be other oils than that, but those are 2 examples. Then you schedule the time to drop off the swap out sample, and then you call them the next day. Again, you don't have to wait 2 days after you drop off the second sample. The point is that we repeat the sampling process as many times as it takes until we have a great experience. Again, the research shows that we really need to have between 8 and 16 touches. So it's important that you have a good experience with the oils first. And our goal should be only to get people to classes when their decision is what to buy, not if they're going to buy something. So again, you don't want to invite them to a class until they have a good experience. So we do this process as many times as it takes, and once they have a great experience, awesome, we move forward. The reason these classes are so effective, the reason they're getting 80% to the classes and enrolling 95% of the people who show up is because we have prepped and prepped and prepped and prepped these folks. So if they don't have a good experience with Deep Blue, you don't invite them to a class. You try another sample. If they don't have a good experience with that one, you don't invite them to a class. You try another sample. So until they have a good experience, you do not invite them to a class. So here we are at step 5. We have someone who has really great experience with the sample, and we're getting ready to invite them to class. What we want to do is actually reinstate their experience to them. This is really important because their testimony is hopefully going to be part of their upcoming class. But even more important than that, we reinstate their experience for them because we build our businesses on their positive personal experiences, not on what we tell them about the oils. Their experience is way more powerful for them than anything we could tell them. And we don't want them going off our word. We want them going off their own personal experience. Reinstating it to them is part of the prep work. So what it looks like is you saying something like, okay, so what happened is you put 3 or 4 drops of Deep Blue in your hand and you rubbed your hands together and you massage it into the lower part of your back. And that the pain you've been experiencing for the past 5 days disappeared within 10 minutes. Then they say, yep, that's exactly what happened. So we begin restarting their experience because we actually train them in their own testimony, which, like I said, is going to be part of the upcoming class. So when they have a good experience, like the Deep Blue or Melaleuca, and you say you put the Melaleuca on your face and the acne went away. And they say, yes, that's what happened. So that then when you invite them to a class and you ask for experiences, they're going to reinstate that in their class. So you want to go on to the next slide? Step 6. So then now the next step, step 6, is really, really important. This is when we call them before class. We're going to call them 2 days before. They tested 1 day, they tested 4 days. It's really important that you call them, and it's really important that it's 2 days. So again, all the market research shows that 2 days is the sweet spot. We don't want to text at this point. We don't want to send a Facebook message. A phone call is the best way. When you call them, you're going to have a sense of urgency and excitement in your voice. And the call's going to go something like this. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I caught you. I only have a second. I just wanted to let you know how excited I am for Thursday. I know you're going to learn so much. I can't wait to see you. We're going to have so much fun. I'm just so excited. That's all. I've got to go. See you then. And you're off the phone. So it's a real simple phone call. It's very urgent and it's very excited. You're not calling to chat. You're not calling to ask how they're doing. You're not checking up on them. You're just letting them know that you're really excited to see them. Now, here's the interesting thing. When this step is skipped, your 80% show up rate drops to 30%. Does everybody get that? If you skip that step, your 80% show up rate drops to 30%. But when this is skipped, we drop from 80 to 30, which is huge, right? That's a lot of people. So then we go on to step 7, which is sending the text. And again, all of these steps are extremely important that we do these. Do you want to move the screen up to step 7? Can you move the screen to the next slide? Okay, so step 7. So now, again, 2 hours before the class, this happens 2 hours before the class, not 1 hour, not 4 hours, not 6 hours. It's 2 hours before the class. You're going to send them a text message. We don't call at this point, we text. The text is very simple, and this is exactly what it says. I'm excited to see you tonight. I have a surprise for you. That's it. And you just, no more. Now, the surprise can be anything you want. It can be anything of your choosing. It can be a goodie bag of a bunch of samples. It can be a wild orange bottle with a little bow tie around it. It can be a spray bottle you've made with a linen spray. It can be a roller bottle you've made with your favorite blend in it. Whatever you want it to be, just something really simple. It doesn't matter what the surprise is, just that you have something special for them for that class. And when she talked to us about this, when we were in the Prague training, I was like, that is so me, because our lives are so busy now. Like a lot of you are young mothers and have children at home. But even if you don't have children at home, society has become so busy that I don't decide if I'm going somewhere until that day, and sometimes that evening. So if somebody texts me 2 hours before and say, hey, can't wait to see you tonight, I've got a surprise for you, that is going to make a big difference. And I'm going to go, for one thing, it rings the bell. Oh, that class is tonight, or that, what event is tonight. And I go. So that is huge. That really just, I can't tell you how much that rang a bell to me. So then what if they don't show? Because you will have some no-shows. So what if they don't show? So the next slide. Now, what if we go through all of that and there are no-shows? How do we handle that? First, we're going to let them know that it was a big deal. We're going to text them afterwards or the next day. If it's too late to text them that night, and we're going to say, oh my gosh, are you okay? I'm worried about you. I knew you were on your way. Is everything all right? So we're going to assume that they were coming, so if they don't show, you're going to text them like, oh my gosh, did something happen? I was worried about you. Then you'll get the response from them and they'll say, oh my gosh, everything's fine. I'm so sorry. Something came up. And you're going to say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you're okay. I hate that you missed the information. It's so important. And I know you're going to love it. I'll just come over to your house and give it to you on a one-on-one. I've got some time Wednesday or Friday morning. When is good for you? So you assume that they want it because what you have is good. So don't be ashamed of what you have, because what you want to share with them is good. Then we'll simply get them all set up on their own one-on-one. So that's it. And this is why Elise doesn't have to invite people to the same class over and over, because people are getting prepped. When you're showing up ready to enroll and there are no shows, then they get a one-on-one. Now, how do we know how to invite people to a class or when to invite them to a one-on-one? Because, this is about who to invite to a one-on-one versus who do you invite to a class. You never invite a VIP to a class. You always invite them to a one-on-one. As you're looking through your list, there's going to be people who are leaders and people who are followers. We want to invite a leader. We never want to invite a leader to a class. And a leader is someone you think that could do this business. You've made your list, you're ranked them from 1 to 7. And so your 7s, you'll never want to invite them a class. You'll want to do a one-on-one with them. The reason why is a leader gets to class and see that there's a bunch of people. There was a bunch of other people there and they feel like they have missed the boat. And all these people know about whatever the thing is and they're late to the game. And it makes them really sad and they don't like it. The only time we would ever bring a leader to a class is if they already enrolled and you want to build and you want them to build and you've invited them as your VIP guest so that they can see how a class works. Otherwise, leaders go to one-on-ones until they've enrolled and then they can visit classes as VIPs. Now, does everybody, understand that? Why you wouldn't always invite your number 7s, your VIPs, to one-on-ones versus classes.
So for those of you on the call, you're going to have, if you haven't ranked your list yet, you're not going to know who your 7s are. So that's why it's important that you go through your names list and rank people before you know who your 5s, 6s, and 7s are. So 7s for sure you would do a one-on-one with.
And then the other ones, your followers, we always invite to classes. When followers are around other people, it gives them momentum. They feel excited. They get really, really into being a part of what everyone else is doing. Leaders get one-on-ones, followers get classes, and each person feels special because you're working within their preference. And now how to invite someone. Okay, now how to invite someone when we haven't had a contact with them recently. The first thing is we're just going to reach out and want in the way that feels most natural. It could be Facebook, it could be texting, it could be email, it could be a phone call, whatever's natural and most appropriate for the relationship. So, you know, different, like the younger, different generations, like I know my daughter, they text all the time. My generation, you know, kind of grew up with phone calls. So you want to reach out to the person how they prefer to be reached out to. So, you know, your friends, if they would rather you text them or if you'd rather give them a call. We reach out, and then at some point we'll get them on the phone. It may not be the first point of contact, but at some point we're going to get them on, going to have a phone call with them. On the phone call, we're going to say something like, you know what, we haven't talked in ages and that's totally my fault, but you've been on my mind for a long time. And I called you for a really specific reason, but if it can't wait, but it can wait, because first I want to hear how you are. Then you're going to have a phone call where you're connecting with them and you're hearing about what's going on in their family, their life, their job, their marriage, their kids, whatever. You can use discovery questions during this conversation. And discovery questions are things like, tell me about such and such. How long have you done so and so? What's the most frustrating thing about whatever? What impact does this have on you? You know, just questions like that. Those are considered discovery questions. Then when you reached out to them because you are interested in sharing the oils with them or the business with them, we can always start with sampling. Sampling is always going to be our beginning point, no matter what. Once it gets to that point in the conversation, you'll just start sampling them like you would anyone else. So that's, you know, when you haven't talked to somebody in a long time, you know, you kind of start out with discovery questions before you jump right into sampling. And then the next slide on how you handle pushback. Okay, how do we handle pushback from our builders? So this is like yourself or the people underneath you. Maybe we presented this process to them and the response is, this is a lot more work. How do we handle that? Well, one of the things that Elise said to us in the training is we get to choose to do this the effective way or the ineffective way. It doesn't matter which way you choose, but you must pick one. At the end of the day, you're going to go on from this call and you're going to build your business, and your builders are going to build their own businesses. Hopefully, we all recognize the importance of doing really effective work and duplicating ourselves. And we can desire to do things effectively. We will support them either way, but the decision is ultimately up to them. Another thing she said is that if we allow people to come to classes without an experience, we're rolling the dice. So it comes down to a matter of luck versus an execution of skills. Sometimes luck is in our favor, but often it's not. So basically, she taught us, you know, we can do this effectively by giving them all the touches before a class, that they have a positive experience before they come to class, or we can just invite people, some of them that have never heard about essential oils, and then just roll the dice and hope they enroll. But if we do the sampling beforehand, then the chances of them enrolling increase to, you know, 80% will come to the class, 95% that come to the class will enroll. So that's very effective. So we definitely, and again, she has put the money into this research and has proven that this all works. So then the next slide. But now for the first time, we have the recipe. We have the ingredients before, but now we actually have the recipe, and that's very, very cool. It's something I'm very excited about, and I hope you are too. List making and ranking. So what are your action steps from this? The first thing that we're going to do is we are all going to start a new list. And so if you've been listening to the calls, I think it was the second call 2, if I'm right. She told you to make a list of 100 people. So all of you should have already started that, making your list. And then you're going to rank them. There's probably some people that have resurfaced in your life, and there are some people in your life that are new, and you haven't made it on your list yet. So the first thing we're all going to do is we're going to make a list of at least 100 people. Then we're going to rank the list so that we know who to focus on first, so that we know who are our 5s, 6s, and 7s. So after you make your list of 100 people, you're going to focus on your 5, 6, and 7s first. And again, a lot of your 5, 6, and 7s, you'll want to do one-on-ones. Definitely your 7s, you'd want to do one-on-ones with. Then we're going to rank the list so that we know who to focus on first, so that we know who to sample first. Once we have ranked our list, we're going to go focus first on those people who are 5, 6, and 7s. Now, let me tell you what I mean by that. What Elise did is they pulled the entire company. They surveyed the entire company, all the diamonds and above, and they asked them tons and tons of questions. And then they had all the data analyzed, trying to figure out what are the common characteristics of all the diamonds and above. Out of the data came these 7 points. These are the 7 common characteristics of the diamond in doTERRA. The first is most diamonds are female. If they're not female, it's a couple where the woman is involved. So either female or a couple where the woman is the face of it. And the reason that is because usually the woman is the mother and she takes care of the health needs of the family. So that is primary the reason most of the time that's the woman. Second, most diamonds are between the age of 35 and 45. She's changed that to 35 and 55. And the reason that this age matters is because it's really about how many networks you've been in, and out of this point, at this point in your life, you've got college, you've got jobs, you've got churches, you've probably lived several different places. You may have children who are in school and sports and that kind of stuff. So she thinks like under 35, a lot of them maybe aren't married yet, and over 55, they might be at the retirement age that they're not ready to start another career. The other thing is, frankly, our bodies are beginning to break down at that point if you're older. Not to be too depressing, but our bodies not as young as they once were, and there's a little bit of wear and tear on them. So we're looking for solutions for that. But they're not so broken down that there's no energy enough to do things. That's, again, I'm sorry, that was for the age between 35 and 45. Now, obviously, there's some that are a lot younger, and there are some much older than this, but this is what they found. Third, someone who's into natural things. So when you're looking at your list, look for someone that's into natural things. This can be anything. It can be a massage therapist, yoga, someone into natural healing, someone who's into non-toxic lifestyle, anyone that is naturally oriented. And fourth, that they've done business before. Maybe it's a different MLM, maybe it's running a store, maybe it's owning their own business, anything where there is some sort of skill set that they already have, or that they're an entrepreneur. Number 5 is they have influence. They're influential in at least one area in their life, preferably more than that, but at least one area where they can carry influence. Now, it doesn't matter whether they're introverted or extroverted. It doesn't matter, but it does matter that they carry influence in at least one area. And 6 is having a money need or a financial need. Elise actually said that this is second only to the importance in her mind of being female. So being female is number 1, and then having a money need is number 2. Female and having money need are the 2 top for her, just in her experience. Any kind of situation where there's some kind of financial need involved. And sometimes it might not be a financial need just for themselves. It could be a financial need for things that they want to do, that they want to give to others for. Then lastly, they have support. If they're married, that they have a supportive spouse. If they're not married, they have relationships in their life that are going to be supportive of them starting a new business and not trying to tear them down. So that's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to make this list, all of us, and then we're going to rank it. The ones that we focus on first are going to be people that are 5 points, 6 points, and 7 points off of this list. So every one of you should have listened to call number 2 and started your list. You really should have it done by now. If not, please get that started as soon as possible and then rank them. For people who want to build immediately, now what do we do with people who want to build immediately? Someone comes to you and they're exclusively interested in the business, not necessarily in the product. What are we going to do is we'll always sample them first. We do that because we know that this business is built on positive personal experiences. So we say to them, hey, listen, this is never going to work until you have a strong experience with the oils, because you can't sell something you don't believe in. We let them know that. We start them with the sampling process, and then we just move them through just like anyone else. But you do have one-on-ones with them. But they need to know how about these oils too. They need to know how they work. They need to have a positive experience to be able to sell them to other people. And so then the last one is the quote from Elise. When I build a business, I don't hope it will work out. I make a specific plan. So I think many of us have kind of done this business, but kind of just, having a class here and there and just hoping that we're going to somehow hit diamond. Well, Elisa, you can't really hit diamond that way. You've got to have a plan. You have to, have a way and work it out. So for most of us, we're going to sample this way for the very first time. What's been interesting to note since we got back from Prague is that the Share Success posted the sampling process on their Facebook page. They're incredibly successful as well. So Elise uses a lot of their materials in her classes, and it sounds like they're using a lot of her processes. All that to say is we have the 2 biggest teams in the company recognize the importance of this sampling process to build really solid teams and really dedicated product users. Because even the sampling process, even those that don't become builders, they become better product users if they're being sampled correctly. So to recap, does this make sense to you guys? Does it make sense that we would want to start these experiences? Does it make sense that we would want to sample them in this way? That we would really want to control the number of touches and exposure that happen before we get them to class? Obviously, this process is about prep. It may not seem a lot. It may seem like a lot more work at the front end, but it ends up saving us a lot more work in the back end. And it's amazing that these 3 separate organizations. So Elise has never had to invite the same people to multiple classes in all 3 of her organizations. And by that is she is triple diamond. So she has 3 separate organizations starting again and again. The mindset is, how can we do favors? So you always want to be reaching out like you're doing them a favor. Because these oils are so effective that you're doing them a favor. So that's going to be the end for tonight. Kristen, do you want to recap?
Yeah, let's do a few questions, because I know there was a lot of questions going through. I know some of us that went to Prague and did this training with Elise in person answered some of your questions in the chat box. But is there any questions? Let's try to stick with questions that you think will help the whole group. So really good ones. Go ahead. And make sure you're asking a question that you've already listened to calls 1 through 10, because if you have questions and you haven't listened to those calls yet, it's probably in calls 1 through 10 on the daily mentor calls. But you can ask questions. That's what we're here for.
Kristen?
Yes.
So Jamie's been sampling some people at work, a lot of people actually. That's why he's on the call. But so Deep Blue, the conversation came up. Somebody loved the Deep Blues. They had tried it somewhere else. He brought them a sample. She wasn't there. He gave the sample to somebody else who tried it before she gave it to the other girl. Anyway, so the conversation was kind of going, this stuff is amazing, but they didn't know the price yet. And then so somebody else talked about BioFreeze, and they're like, I was going to buy that stuff, but BioFreeze, it's like $12. So then now where do you go from there? Like ours is 40 something unless they get, the whole thing is to get them wholesale, but even that's 30 something. So how do you reel that back in again among the whole group that was kind of talking about that.
Yeah, Deep Blue Rub is cheaper, but I would invite them to the class. If they've had a positive oil experience, I would immediately get them to a class, because at the class is when they're going to hear more about why they need oils, why this non-toxic lifestyle, why they need all these other oils at the class. So,
And
So
biofreeze is not natural.
Yeah, right. So do you don't like they just want to buy the product from him, and he's new at this, so we just sort of just say, oh, we're going to have a class on such and such a date, come and learn about it then.
yeah, if they've had that positive oil experience with Deep Blue, and maybe they're like, hey, I want to buy this, I would be like, well, before you do that, I'm so excited about my class, and I want to invite you to it. It's this time, and get them excited about coming to the class,
Okay.
and tell them that they've got, like, you think that's awesome, I've got even more to share with you, more goodness to share with you for so many other things.
I did see that several people asked questions about ranking. You give them a point for each one of those things. If they're a woman, they get a mark, a point. If they're into natural things, they get a mark. But if they're a woman and they're not into natural things, they don't get the natural things mark. So then that's how you total it up. So if they're single and they don't have a spouse or a supportive network, it doesn't have to be a spouse. It could be a supportive network. They get a mark if they do. If they don't get that mark. And then at the end, you total all those up, and that's how you get out of 7 questions, you get 7 out of 7 or 5 out of 7.
Yeah. And to go back to Laura's question, we're going to learn a lot of that next week, actually, after you sample, how do you get them to the class, and then how you teach the class. I know my thoughts change about how I teach a class. I overteach classes. I overteach way too much, but she teaches you how to teach a class that will get people wanting to enroll with kits. So if you just hold on to that a little bit, we'll be talking about that next week. And you'll have a lot more of your questions answered after what happens after the sampling, because when you sample, you should already have classes, like a class in your home, 1 or 2 classes in your home already scheduled, so that they have an option to come to one class A or class B, and then you're going to learn how to teach your class.
And then Allison just posted in the chat, you can even invite them to a one-on-one as an option, just to hurt, you should always have classes scheduled, which the system helps with that. But maybe they're, if you'd rather just hurry up and get that one-on-one on the schedule, go ahead and, meet with them one-on-one and go through natural versus, unnatural options, and why we don't do, the difference between over-the-counter things and essential oils.
The one thing I would say is, I know it's going to be another week before we have another call, but go ahead and get your sample, your labels, your sample vials, and even a few keychains, doTERRA keychains ordered, so that you have those and you're ready to go with them.
What other questions?
I'll just say too, if there's like a bunch of people from your work, Jamie, like having a class where you invite those people, I don't know where you work, but at your place of work or somewhere nearby, or if it feels more natural, like one-on-ones are still, like, they're not a bad thing. Of course, it's so much more time effective to have a class, and you have like people in the class that are all excited together. It just like works better, but one-on-ones are still a thing that you can do. Like Chris,
it might be a good option for us, because he works in a hospital 45 minutes away. So it's harder to get somebody from 45 minutes away to drive to our house. So we might be doing one-on-ones or two-on-ones,
or have one near the hospital at a place where they can come.
True. Yeah.
When Elise went diamond in 62 days or whatever it was, her friend owned some restaurant. Allison and Jasmine and Mom can correct me if I'm wrong, but she had a friend that had a restaurant, and so she basically lived at that restaurant and just paid for people's meals while she taught classes. She was teaching at least 4 classes a day, of course, her goal was diamond in 62 days. So, but she was teaching at least 4 classes a day. I mean, she just had people all day long in there. So all that to say is, it's like, if there's a restaurant that there's like a side room or a side area, like you could just start holding classes in, whether it's a restaurant, a chiropractic office, a library, just, all I'm saying is they don't all have to be in your house. You can hold classes other places as well, but your house is fine too.
Yeah.
What other questions?
Jenny Hawkins asked, as it relates to time management, would you just pause your social media and other random things you've been doing to just focus on this? What are you all doing? I'm not stopping social media, but she does have a weekly success schedule that that is really helpful in terms of how do you plan out your week? How do you plan out your week? Like, so when I plan out my week, so tonight, usually Sunday nights or Monday morning early, I'm looking at my week. Where's my kids' practices? Where's their game? What's after, all that stuff. And then during my day, I'm planning out when I'm doing my follow-ups. I got a specific hour for follow-ups. I've got a specific half hour for emails. I'm going to make sure I post on social media between the hours of 7 and 9 in the morning. So I schedule that out. So that you know where you can fit your time blocks in to actually have more intentional power hours. So hopefully that helps a little bit to Jenny. And she actually has a whole, I can share it in the thread, a whole YouTube video on the weekly success schedule.
Yeah, post that. Definitely post it, because like we're all about to like jumpstart our businesses together. Like once we get through these 4-week training calls, we're all going to jumpstart. I'm Presidential Diamond. I'm jumpstarting my business. I'm redoing everything the way I've done it. And you may think you're crazy. You hit Presidential Diamond doing it your way. Well, I want to keep growing, right? And so it's just time to sample people, and it's time to do it a different way. This way is proven. There's thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars on this way. So yes, while it worked for me the old way, if we want to create time freedom for all of us, we're going to do what's duplicatable, and this way is duplicatable. We're going to make things simpler. And so that I'm jumpstarting my business with you. So all that to say is, should we all stop scrolling on Facebook and Instagram? Yes, we don't have time for that. If you enjoy scrolling, then you have your time priorities. Basically what I'm saying is, you should be teaching classes and one-on-ones and focusing that time on sampling people. And so for us that went to Prague, we are stopping with the whole no TV watching, no Netflix, none of that, because we are devoting the next 90 days hardcore into our businesses. And because we want to put the system in action and and show you all that it works. And so that's what we're doing. Y'all can decide if you want to join us or not. But we are so passionate and so pumped up about this. And as far as social media, I'm still posting, but like I post like how I use my Terrazyme while I travel. I post about my favorite roller bottle that I made up for my kids last night. So if you do it, and one way to post on social media is make a bunch of different sample vials, little cute little 1/4 gram sample vials with different stickers on them, and set them out. You can set them out on a piece of white cardboard from Kroger or Walmart. Anyway, take a picture and then advertise samples. For those of you not already working with another wellness advocate, comment below such and such if you want to sample. And that's a way that you can reach out to people and sample people by mailing them samples. So Elise talked about, like, if you have somebody that lives, Amy, you can correct me because she told you this, because Amy, my sister-in-law who went to Prague with us, she's military, just moved, so she's mailing a lot of samples. So for that, you would mail for one health condition, say for allergies, don't just do lavender, maybe do all 3 of them so that you don't have to keep mailing things back and forth to the same person. So in that situation, when you're mailing samples, yeah, maybe mail 2 or 3 oils, but tell them to use one at a time. And if that one doesn't do the trick, you use the script and you find out, hey, did you have the opportunity, whatever the script says. I don't have it memorized yet. Then move on to the second sample. You've already sent them 2 or 3. You're just telling them use one at a time until they figure out which one works for them for that health issue, so that you're not mailing back and forth a million times, wasting a lot of money. That's the only time you would mail more than one that you'd give more than one sample, is if you're having them mail samples. So anyway, using social media to get samples out to people is a great option. Allison Brimmelcombe already posted her picture with samples. You can look at hers. I'm going to be doing mine later this week, posting a picture of sample vials, asking people who want samples. And you want to make sure you say, if you're not already a doTERRA customer or wellness advocate, because you don't want to be sending samples to people that are already enrolled. That's a waste of your time and money. All right. Anybody else? I like what Allison said. Don't count on social media. It helps you get leads, but you have to do the work. Yeah, Elise built to triple diamond without social media. She just got on like a month ago. So you've got to like talk to people. You really have to like get to know people in real life. We can't just sit behind a screen and expect our businesses to grow. It's a tool to help our businesses grow, but you can do it without social media. And Elise is a testament that she had 0 social media and built to triple diamond. Any other questions?
I do have a quick question. So for when we were sampling in the beginning, if we didn't do the follow-ups correctly, but our people are still somewhat interested, is there a way that we can implement this and reach back out to them to kind of get them re-interested in trying the essential oils again? Because maybe they didn't have a good experience the first time, and my follow-up wasn't the best to remedy their experience.
Yeah, that's a great question. I had someone else ask me that today. I mean, girls that went to Prague with me, I would say yes, reach back out to them and offer them, just say, hey, as I've been educated more and more on these essential oils, everyone's body chemistry is different. There are different oils for different health conditions. I would love to help get you the right solution for your headache or your back pain or whatever it is. And what do you girls say? Allison, Jasmine. Oh, Allison.
I was saying, I just am always honest with people. Even before I had this training, I would find a text thread of somebody that I had talked to and then totally left hanging. And so I would just follow up and just be really honest. I'm so sorry. I totally dropped the ball and left you hanging, and I want to make sure you get the help that you need. Are you still having trouble sleeping or whatever they talk to you about? I really want to help you find something that works for that. And then just own it and just say, totally my bad. Don't pretend like that other thing didn't happen. And they're going to either respond or not. But I would just always just be really honest and either offer them another sample or invite them to a class if they're ready to learn.
Yeah, I agree. I sent messages a lot last week. Actually, when I was flying home from Prague, I sent a bunch of messages, and tomorrow I've got an hour that I'm devoting to following up to those messages because I haven't heard from them yet. So it's just consistency is what's going to help you to get those enrollments and book those classes, so.
You look like you're in a scary movie, Jasmine.
Okay, maybe it's getting late. Let's do one more question.
I have another one. Is somebody else unmuted?
No, go ahead.
What do we do? What can we do? How do we plug in the people who have canceled LRP into this whole equation?
Get them to continuing education, which we'll talk about. If you can get your enrolled customers to continuing education classes, they're going to fall in love with more products.
Most of them are long distance.
Okay, so I'm hoping that we'll have.
Let's do it. We'll add on a week 5 call for continuing education.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that, but there will be people offering online options on my team. It's going to take me a little bit of time to work it out. So
Yeah, and everybody can run their in their local areas can well, I mean, I know online. Everyone can run their own continuing education as well. We'll talk about that in week 5. Week 5 call, continuing education. We just added a week.
I also just want to say, like, I know we all want to do stuff the way Elise wants us to do it, and like, always ask yourself, like, okay, what did Elise tell me to do? What's the best way to do this? Is it simple? Is it easy to duplicate? But still just be yourself and be like a real person. Like, if you don't have a script for something, it's okay. Like, just be real and like, don't overthink. Like, oh my gosh, I have to say these certain words. Like, of course, like, don't just go to default how you've always done things that haven't been working, but like, just following up with people like we talked about, just be yourself and just be really honest with people. And that's going to go really far.
Someone's asking, what general oils do you keep in your car with you right now? Just because, like, the most popular oils to sample people with. Deep Blue. This is just what I'll make samples of. Deep Blue, Breathe, especially this time of year for congestion. Let's see, Deep Blue, Breathe. Digestin is another wow one that works immediately. What do you all say? For sleep, I would probably do Roman chamomile because it's my favorite.
Yeah, so Elise has, like, she keeps a Ziploc baggie of drams filled with samples, and they all have stickers on it. I mean, she's not fancy about it, but it was really that simple. She's like, yeah, and she pulled it out of her purse, a Ziploc baggie of her drams with samples in it, so she's ready to give out a sample on a notice, So I was just like, I mean, I actually made up samples this week. Well, actually, my daughter did because it's a good activity for her, right? Made up some samples, and so I'm ready to go. I went to my reunion yesterday and gave out 2 samples.
And again, if you carry the keychain with you all the time, you're going to have 8 samples and have those samples that you can give them away, and you have ones to replenish it with.
Mm-hmm.
So that anybody that you meet, if you meet somebody in the grocery store, that you can give them a sample, or you're somebody at the Starbucks that you talk to every day, you can give them a sample.
Yeah.
And those of you that have been doing the business for a while, you should have plenty of oils. You can use your LRP points to buy more oils to use samples for. But if you're brand new, like this is your first month doing the business and you truly have no samples, reach out to your upline. And I'm not saying I'm just an ask if they have any extras. I'm not saying they will for sure because everyone's upline is different. But if you're brand new to this business and just don't have anything, just reach out to your upline. But most of you have LRP points that you can cash in for oils for samples. All right. I think we got all the questions, so we're going to go ahead and hop off. So next week, we're going to make sure for those, if you have team members that didn't hop on, we're going to use an account that holds 200 people, so we'll have plenty of space. And 8 p.m. Central next Sunday night, and we're going over how to teach a class, how to hostesses. So somebody asked about hostesses. We're gonna talk about how to find hostesses and how to get them to sample people. We're gonna talk about, next week's gonna be really juicy because the class, we're gonna change how you teach a class, and it's amazing. Like, you're gonna completely teach a class a different way, and you're gonna teach it in a way that gets people pumped up about enrolling, and you're teaching it in a way that's gonna get people excited to want to book and host a class for you. Booking classes from classes is what we're going to talk about next week as well. How do I get more classes from this class? And that's how you're going to just keep getting out of your warm market into different areas of people to enroll, because you're going to always be booking classes from classes with this method, and it's proven method. So you're going to want to hop on next week. It's going to be amazing. We're going to post this recording by tomorrow for sure, if not tonight. Depends on how long it takes. All right. Thanks, everybody. We're finished with week 1. See you next week.